Hi everyone, Happy New Year. My name is Nick, and today we're going to discuss some houseplants that I believe will be new on the market for 2021. Two disclaimers right off the bat for this video. One is that these houseplants are not necessarily new, I just believe they're going to be new on the market. So I'm sure you've seen most of these houseplants on social media already, it's just that right now they're really not that easy to get your hands on. And two is that this is not fact, this is just educated guesses that I'm making based on my prior knowledge and experience as a buyer, as well as the buyers that I still speak to, and the other people in the industry that I speak to, whether they are brokers or growers or what have it. So I'm using my insider information, if you will, if you want to even call it that, to share with you guys what I believe will be on the market this year. And I could be wrong, I could very well be wrong, but I'm looking at this assortment here, and I feel pretty confident that all of these are going to be decently enough readily available by the end of 2021. Whether or not they will be inexpensive is something that I cannot answer in this video. So only time will tell for that. Anyway, let's go ahead and get started. The first one I would like to talk about today is this very interesting plant right here. So this is a Rhaphidophora decursiva. Now, I want to go back in time, like a year and a half ago, when the Rhaphidophora tetrasperma became readily available on the market because it was mass-produced by a process called tissue culture. And suddenly this plant hit the market. Prior to that, it was very elusive, it was decently expensive, and suddenly it was everywhere and costed peanuts. It was alongside now pothos and Hartley philodendron and plants like that that are dirt cheap. So this, I have some knowledge that this is being produced by tissue culture as well. The one thing I do want to say actually about that though is that very similar to the Rhaphidophora tetrasperma being sold to people commercially as Monstera minima or Monstera ginny, there's a couple of different names, that this is also not being sold to growers as Rhaphidophora decursiva. It's being sold as Epipremnum pinnatum. So could it be that? Very well, it possibly could. However, many of these people who are commercially growing this plant are saying it's not Epipremnum pinnatum. It is in fact Rhaphidophora decursiva, which is exactly what this plant is right here. So if this isn't a Rhaphidophora decursiva, then they're saying it's an Epipremnum pinnatum or vice versa, but only time will tell with that. I just want to say that because in case this plant hits the market and some people are selling it as Epipremnum pinnatum, I just want to make that clear, just to, kind of ward off any future confusion. But this, as I said, is being produced by tissue culture. I know that a bunch of, companies that sell to a lot of plant stores are going to have this available later on this year. And as I was saying, whether or not this is going to be expensive or not is beyond me. Hopefully it follows the same exact trend as the Rhaphidophora tetrasperma. We will find out, but this is a neat plant. I do want to say too that this is one that really does require like a trellis setting, just as really the Rhaphidophora tetrasperma really appreciates the trellis. It doesn't necessarily require it though. This plant really does require like a moss pole setting in order to grow to its fullest potential. So you can see this beautiful leaf that I have right here, but every leaf that I have past that leaf is this juvenile, just plain, very leafy leaf right here. So if you want to get these nice segmented palm frond-like leaves, you really are going to want to have this plant growing up like a moss pole setting. If these plants are being produced, maybe they're going to be sold on a moss pole already with some beautiful leaves. Maybe they're going to be sold in 4-inch pots. I have no idea. I just know that they're going to be hitting the market this year. So that's something we'll find out later on, but it's such a neat plant. I just want to say set yourself up for success with this plant so that you don't have a weird, wily plant like I do. Mine does definitely not look like the ones that you would probably see on Instagram, and that's probably why I'm not necessarily sharing mine that much on Instagram. Anyway, there are actually a couple more Rhaphidophoras that I want to talk about today that I do really think are going to be hitting the market for 2021. So this one right here is a Rhaphidophora HAYI, and this is a shingling type of Rhaphidophora. So while the other two, the decursiva and then the tetrasperma behind me here that I briefly mentioned, really are more like climbing varieties, this, while it does climb, really does want to shingle to something. So just like the decursiva, I think you're really going to want to set yourself up for success with this one. And I can show you from my experience of growing this plant over the past year that I did not set myself up for success. I really should have given myself like a 2-foot thing for this to climb up, because as soon as it got to the top here, it was just like peace, and it's just this kind of wimpy thing here that I really just need to remove. It's got like a couple leaves at the end here, but they're not anything spectacular. That I really should just cut this plant from where it's got foliage that I admire and then let it grow from there. we'll find out what I do with this over time. But kind of where I'm going with this isn't really like the best houseplant. This is a cool plant to grow, 100%. I love it. I think it's really interesting. But it's not like the most amazing houseplant to grow in the home setting because of the way that it has to grow up a pole and it needs something to grow. So I just want to let you guys know that if you are going to want to purchase this plant, that you really do need to, like I've been saying, set yourself up for success with it, or else you're just going to have kind of a messy plant right here. I think it's really neat. I'm glad that's going to be hitting the market. It's one that I'm like kind of surprised that people are kind of into it because similar to like the Jade Satin Syndapsis, this is just a plain green plant. But I think it's that people kind of appreciate the other characteristics of this plant about how it grows in a very interesting manner, or maybe they just love that it's a relative to the Rhaphidophoras because I know those are very hot plants. But nonetheless, I think it's a really neat plant. I'm really excited for it to hit the market. I don't think it's going to be that inexpensive from the way things are starting out right now, but as I keep saying, only time will tell. I'm not going to know really anything about that until later on. This one is very, very similar. Another Rhaphidophora. This is Rhaphidophora CRYPTANTHA, and I absolutely love the venation on these leaves. Hopefully the camera is in focus. I, of course, cannot see, but it looks very, very similar to like a very small-leafed, immature version of like a Monstera dubia. I think it's really fantastic. So I'm really interested in this. I've heard that these were being grown out last year. Actually, I will admit that like when going up to me leaving my job at the plant store, I was asking the grower like every week, are the Rhaphidophora CRYPTANTHAs ready yet? And one of my friends who's a buyer actually just gifted me this very recently for Christmas. So it's very nice of her. So I'm happy that I have it to share with you guys for this video. So I do believe that this is going to be readily available coming up very shortly. Just like the Rhaphidophora HAYI, do I think it's going to be inexpensive? Not really, but I don't think it's going to be that pricey. Like I think something like this 4-inch pot here will probably go for like maybe $40, $50, $60, so we'll see what happens, but that's just my assumption. But it is really beautiful foliage, just like the Rhaphidophora HAYI, though you really do need to set yourself up. This was sold and it's being produced on these little planks, which I think is really not doing anyone any favors. Yeah, because it's like attached to that plank already, at least this more developed one is, and I don't really want to remove it, so I guess I'm gonna have to find out some way to like attach another board to the top here. Don't really know how I'm gonna do that. Let me know if you have any tips. I'm kind of like not sure how to do that, but nonetheless, this is such a gorgeous houseplant. It's so beautiful. I'm so excited to finally be growing it. We're just going to have to get accustomed to it, but I can take a note from my HAYI and hopefully do a much better job with this one. But yeah, pretty interesting plants. They grow easily enough. I think it's very similar to like the other Rhaphidophoras, both these shingling ones that if you aren't watering enough, they'll kind of curl in a little bit on the edges, but I think they're easy enough. I think really just the most important thing, as I've said like 15 times already, is just to make sure that you have the best growing method for them to flourish in your home. But that's it for the Rhaphidophora. I'm not gonna bore you guys with any more rafts. So let's move on. Here is a Hoya that I think is gonna be pretty readily available this upcoming year. So this is Hoya NUMMULARIOIDES. I think they also sell this on the market as Hoya pubera, like P-U-B-E-R-A. So in case you're seeing it sold as that, I think that's, whether that's a different Hoya or not, I'm not really sure, but that's just how it's being sold on the market. But some people are also selling it as NUMMULARIOIDES. So just a thing to point out, just like the Epiphyllum pinnatum versus Rhaphidophora decursiva, they are completely different plants. It's just sometimes down the line, someone is maybe not sure what it is and they market it as something else. I don't really know how it works, but just to let you guys know if things make it all the way to the plant store. Because I know when I was a buyer, I would find things and be like, that's not that, and change the name in our system. Just have to, of course, put that information out there. But this is such just a neat little Hoya. It's got fuzzy little leaves. It's got a little funky shape to it. It's a bit different than most of the other Hoyas that you see on the market as of right now. So that's just something nice to see. And I'm pretty sure from the availability list that I've seen in the past that this thing is going to be coming up this spring and summertime, hopefully by then, as long as people can keep up with production. It's nothing expensive. This price tag that I got mine here says $15.98, so $16 for a 4-inch Hoya, I think is what I would expect to pay for a 4-inch Hoya. In fact, that's a good deal. These days for Hoyas, people are selling like 2-leaf cuttings of Hoyas for like 60 bucks. I don't even understand who's paying for those, but it's beyond me. But this is one, I think you're gonna be seeing it in 4-inch pots, 6-inch pots, 8-inch hanging baskets. I think it's going to be, all of it is going to be readily available. So just hang on to your horses if you're a Hoya collector. I think you're going to be seeing it pretty soon. And there is one more Hoya that I believe will be coming up on the market this year. I've been starting to see it around as well. This is Hoya linearis, and people absolutely love this Hoya because it's just so relaxed and so different than some of the other Hoyas. It more looks like something that would grow in like a bog setting. It's just so interesting and like ethereal and bohemian. It is very interesting. I think it looks like Spanish moss, although when I did my video saying that this plant looked like Spanish moss, people said it looks more like a Rhapsalis, which I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. I still stand by my opinion thinking this looks like Tillandsia eucinoides or Spanish moss, but anyway, that doesn't really matter. But this is, I think, a pretty decently easy Hoya to grow, so it makes sense that this is also going to be hitting the market. I've been seeing it on my availability list right when I was leaving the store, but I was never able to get it in the store myself, but I've been seeing other people get it in. I know that my broker has it available, so it's just like one of those things that it's going to probably be rolling in. The first people are going to be snatching it up really quickly, but as it's produced more and more, it's going to become more and more readily available. And Hoyas on the market are not really inexpensive. I know when I used to buy Hoyas from Florida, they would be decently priced. Like I would have to sell a 6-inch pot of Hoya for usually like $45, $50 for the ones that weren't like Carnosa pubicalyx. So just something to be aware of. I wouldn't be surprised if these are going for between like $45, $60 for like a 6-inch or 8-inch, not an 8-inch, a 6-inch pot. So you know, I don't think it's going to be cheap by any means. Hoyas just always seem to cost a decent amount of money wholesale. The price has been going up steadily, as I've noticed over the past year or two, as, you know, the Hoya craze is starting to pick up. But honestly, for a full-ass pot of Hoya linearis, they've been like 6-inch pots, like I said, for probably like $50, $60. Seems decently enough because there's a lot of plant in those pots. And I just have like 2, 3 plants in this pot right here. So, you know, you could get a lot more than that. And on Etsy, I'm sure people are selling just like a couple of cuttings of this for over $10, probably 20, maybe even 30. I don't know. I haven't been checking it out. But, you know, if you think about a full 6-inch pot that's probably got over 50 cuttings in it, that's a pretty good deal. So I wouldn't knock that. But Hoya linearis is super cute. I do want to say it's kind of a mealybug magnet. I think I actually have it under control at the moment, which is beyond me. I think this thing usually always has mealybugs on it, but just be mindful. And I always spray. I like to use Captain Jack's, but honestly, any SPINOSAD product is good enough for me. So yeah, just try that out if you are having an issue with the mealybugs, or you could use Houseplant Systemics. I like to use those too. I usually tend to tag team them. I've done videos in the past on pest control, so you can check that out if you're interested. But yeah, a really nice Hoya. I'm really looking forward to this becoming a little bit more readily available because I think I need a little bit more than just these 3 strands here, although I think it's super cute, like super, super cute for just a small amount of Hoya. But I think I'm ready to upgrade in the near future, as long as I have the space for it. But all right, so I want to take a little siesta from the show and tell and talk about a plant that I actually don't have. So I know that there's this plant being produced on the market. It's called Syngonium ice frost, is what they're calling it. I believe it's Syngonium macrophyllum ice frost, if we're being very specific. And that one's been hitting the market, or it's being grown out. It's just starting to hit the market, and the price is skyrocket high right now, but just you wait a couple of months. It's going to be readily available. Just hang tight. And there's a reason why I don't have it. I don't really love it. I've been seeing it at this local farmer's market here that has had it a couple times, but in my opinion, I think it looks kind of like a sick chlorotic Hoya macrophyllum. I grow Syngonium macrophyllum. I grow the plain green Syngonium macrophyllum in my home, and that's good enough for me. The frosted one kind of rubs me the way of like the white butterfly Syngonium podophyllum, which is just, it's kind of like a sickly characteristic, but that's just to me. That's just my opinion. Some people are going to absolutely love it, and people are clearly loving it if they're spending top dollar on it anyway. But like I was saying, if you've noticed it and you've been seeing it on social media and you are looking to get this plant in your home, hang tight. It's going to be available. I'm sure in due time it's going to be probably not very expensive at all. Probably like a 6-inch pot would be like $30 maximum is what I would expect to pay for it, because that's how much it should pay, or it should cost. Anyway, we will see. Hang tight. It's going to be there. It's not really worth it in my opinion, but that's my own opinion. Everybody has different opinions. So, okay, moving on to another one that I actually have to share with you guys today, and that I will actually have nice things to say about. So this is an Anthurium. So this is Anthurium PEDATORADIATUM. This is what they call like the fingers Anthurium. I think this thing is just so freaking cute. I'm admittedly not the biggest like lover of Anthuriums. I don't grow any of those ritzy Anthuriums in my home. I think they're a bit overrated and of course overpriced. But this one is one that I've been growing in my home for, believe it or not, over a year now. I believe in a video I did like a month or two ago, this plant had one little, it was this leaf and it was just developing, as I honestly forgot about this plant and I just let it dry up a little too much, and all the foliage on this plant died off, and I put it under a grow light. I was watering it very regularly, and now it's putting off some nice foliage for me. I'm very excited about it. We've come a long way. It's a lot. I know it's not very much for having this for over a year, but I think it's good enough for me. Anyway, this is one that I also feel pretty confident is going to be on the market. I've been seeing it around here and there. I know that this is one that some of the broken companies have been able to get in like 10-inch pots, and of course those 10-inch pots kind of cost a decent amount of money. Not ridiculous, like between $50 and $100, which is reasonable for a 10-inch pot if you think about it, but I know that seems to be a lot of money for people. It's not one that you've been seeing in these little 4-inch pots, but just like I've been saying about the things being grown by plugs and tissue cultures, and if you're not aware, a plug is just like a little potless plant that's probably like got a little soil medium the size of my thumb, and it's just rooted up in there, and people just plug them into the soil and they grow them out in the 4, 6, or 8-inch pots, and that's how many of our plants are produced. So just a little background knowledge there, but I believe that this is being sold as plugs to many commercial growers, so I do think this is going to be a little bit more readily available, which is nice. I also think that this applies to a couple other anthuriums on the market. I believe Veitchii is being sold by plugs too, so hopefully that one shows up too, because oof, I think Veitchii like 2 years ago was super easy to get your hands on. It was like 15-20 bucks for a 4-inch pot, and it's not that way nowadays. So yeah, if you don't already have Anthurium Veitchii, I would just wait a little bit longer, because I do think they're going to be hitting the market. It's just some of these plants are in such high demand that it's just so hard for a lot of the growers to even get them to the stores. I feel like they're being swiped up by people locally who are like selling them online and stuff. So I don't think this one is as popular as like the other anthuriums, like the Clarinervum and the Ace of Spades that some of the growers are growing. That those are definitely getting snatched up. But the plain green anthuriums, like the Superbum and the Fingers, are, I think, under the radar a little bit more compared to the other ones with the ritzy foliage. So this one, hopefully, is one that's going to be hitting the market this year. I feel like this is the one I'm probably most unsure about out of everything in this video, but that should say something, because I do feel pretty confident that's going to be hitting the market. Oh, and I have one more to share with you guys today. Pardon me, I just gotta get it out from this back corner here. So this is a Sanseiveria, or a Dracaena if you are diehard, but this is a Sansevieria trifasciata Gold Flame, and I'm just gonna put this saucer down because it's just gonna give us more issue than not. So this is just a very heavily yellow variegated snake plant. It kind of reminds me of like the variegated whale fins. If you know what I'm talking about, they have like very heavy yellow variegation on them. So this just kind of is like the trifasciata version of that, is kind of how it looks to me. I wouldn't have necessarily guessed myself that this is one that would have hit the market this year, but according to one of the growers that I talked to, he thinks that this is going to be a very hot plant this upcoming year. And fortunately enough, it's a Sanseiveria, so I don't think it's going to cost any more than like the Whitneys and the Moonshines and the Black Golds and the Black Corals and all those. So I don't think this is going to be expensive, which I know that this is a decently sought after Sanseiveria for Sansevieria collectors. So good news to you guys if you are looking to add this to your collection. Just hang tight, as I keep saying throughout this video. I do really think that all these plants are going to be on the market. This one, like I'm saying, I think is going to be on the inexpensive side. I don't think a snake plant in a 6-inch pot will cost more than like $30 at the most expensive plant store. So I think that's good news there. But this is just such a neat Sanseiveria. It's got such great foliage. The new leaves come in like this kind of lime green color, as you can see right here with this new spear that I have right here. But as it kind of fades back over time, it becomes really yellow. You can see this leaf right here. Can't tell how, I can't see the monitor, so who knows how well I'm showing you guys this, but it is such a really neat Sanseiveria. I think it's great. I got this one a couple of years ago, actually, probably about 2 years ago, from my friend's mother. Actually, she had a big one, and she broke it up into like 8 different plants, and she gave 2 of them to me, and I gave one of them away because I don't know why. But slow growing, of course. It was only 1 plant when she gave it to me in the pot, and now it's these 2 beautiful plants. But honestly, that's fast growing enough for me. In fact, I prefer the plants that grow this slow, and I think it just looks so great now as it's filling out in this pot. In a yellow Berg's pot, you guys know me and my Berg's pots. I'm such a big fan, so I think this is so perfect. match made in heaven with the pot, but the plant itself is just so beautiful, and I'm very glad to hear that this is one that's going to be hopefully hitting the market in 2021. So if I'm hearing it from a grower, I shouldn't even be saying hopefully. I know it's going to be hitting the market. So stay tuned for this lovely Sanseiveria, and I'm sure there's going to be a couple other Sansevierias coming up, but this is the most notable one, I would say. So I think that's going to do it for new plants for 2021, or what I believe will be new plants on the market for 2021. Only time will tell there, as I keep saying, but hopefully we see all of these plants on the market sooner than later, because these are really incredible houseplants. If you like Rhaphidophora, I think you're going to be in luck for this year. Otherwise, let me know in the comments which plants you guys think are going to be showing up this year, whether you're just making a guess for fun or you have a hunch about something. Let me know, I'm curious. But thank you guys so much for joining me today. If you don't already, follow me on Instagram at PhillyFoliage, subscribe to my channel, and I will see you guys in my next video. Have a great time!